So we've had a look at essentially the new age compliance officer. What next? Well, it's all about business, isn't it? The business component and how compliance is contributing to an organization's objectives. And as we've heard concurrently throughout the day, it has become a more and more critical function within an organization, given the fluidity and the uncertainty that so many organizations, public sector and private sector, are facing around the world. So I want to, at this point, introduce to you our next moderator, Maria de las Achimbal, who is the Chief Compliance Officer, YPFSA, and she will pick up the rest of her panel with us. So Maria, a very warm welcome to you. Good afternoon to you, South African time, and I hand the Congress to you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, South African time. Good morning, Buenos Aires time. Here we are in Argentina. I want to thank everyone in the audience for joining us this morning/afternoon. I also want to thank the International Federation of Compliance Associations for giving the space for sharing this, our experiences and thoughts on such important issues for our careers and professional development. I also want to thank the Argentine Association of Ethics and Compliance, who appointed me or invited me to join IFCA Congress this year. And that said, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Bello. Mr. Bello is Chief Compliance Officer at Coronation Merchant Bank, responsible for the provision and operational and advisory support in the development and implementation of all compliance and LMAL TFT strategies. He is also charged with establishing strong compliance standards in accordance with industry and global best practices and acting as a liaison between the bank and all regulatory and law enforcement bodies. He's gained over 17 years of experience in financial control, funds management, relationship management, compliance, and risk management. He commenced his career in Sagro Agroscience Limited in 2004 as an accountant and then progressed to the role of financial controller at Stanbic IBTC Pension Management Limited, gaining a mass of experience in risk and compliance, stockbroking, relationship management, and funds management. Before he joined Coronation Merchant Bank, he served as compliance manager at Citibank Nigeria Limited. He has an MBA from Warwick Business School and is fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, Compliance Institute of Nigeria, as well as an associate certified anti-money laundering specialist. Mr. Bello, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Maria. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in any part of the world. I hope we're all keeping safe. It's nice to be here. And I've been listening to the conversations of the previous panel, and indeed, they have helped in even making my work a little bit easier. And I hope that everyone can hear me and can see my screen. My name is Ibrahim Bello, and I'm here to speak to you about the business components of how compliance contributes to an organization's objectives. And I'm hoping to do this in about 10 slides. And to flag off, I want to start by speaking a bit about compliance. And like I said earlier, I've seen a number of definitions around compliance, and what I've tried to do is to give a simple definition, which is to the fact that compliance is simply complying with rules and regulations that guides an operation or activity or processes, businesses, or people. And I was making an example of the family setting to say that everybody has done compliance in one form or the other, where you have in the family setting, the parents setting the rules that guides the operation of the home for the children to follow, and in some instances for themselves to follow as well. I was also speaking to the definition of a compliance officer, and in a very simple way, I said it's an expert in AML CFT, given that we're in this presentation now, an expert in AML CFT regulation and regulatory disposition. And if you look at starting from the family setting, there are times when the parents speak to children by just gesturing or giving some eye contact, and the children immediately understand what is being communicated and they act appropriately. And that a compliance officer is that person who has industry knowledge within the sphere within which he or she operates. And they're also knowledgeable about knowing what the global best practice is as they go along. I was also speaking to qualities of a good compliance officer, and the most important thing for me is that for you to be a compliance officer, you must be knowledgeable. Knowledgeable starting from the types of products and services that your organization offers to customers, and then you also need to understand the rules and regulations that guides the operation and the business within which you are a compliance officer for. For you to be a compliance officer, you must have the mind to be able to go alone, to start things from cradle to grave. Because at the end of the day, you will be that person who is expected to guide the organization through the regulatory waters. And of course, you have to be meticulous and assertive. The one little thing that you can miss can be very disastrous for the entity as well. You need to have organization and presentation skills. You need to be very trustworthy. And then you also need to be a good negotiator. What I mean by being a good negotiator is that for every time you find yourself negotiating with the business on how to ensure that they comply to certain things, and especially with respect to timelines, they're giving you a longer timeline, but you know that it's very important to comply as soon as possible to give room for any issues that might come up, and then you can, make changes. You also negotiate with the regulators where they churn out rules and regulations that you feel will hamper the business. Okay, and then I move to misconceptions about compliance. And this is global. There are many people that believe compliance, they're like the police, right? Why do you want to show the police what you're doing so that they can come back and get you? People also believe that compliance does not help the business to engage the regulator, more because at the time when compliance is doing those negotiations or engagements, they are not privy to those things. They just see that a regulation has been changed or a rule has been changed. What has happened for that to change, they don't really know. Hence, they don't believe that you are engaging enough, okay? And sometimes they always make that comment. We don't even know who the compliance officer is working for. Is he working for us or for the regulator? Because they often see you make comments that the regulator will not accept this, you could be sanctioned for this, this is what the requirement is. So they often ask that question. That's why when they see you doing your compliance work, they necessarily don't trust you, except you have been able to build enough engagement and negotiations within the business for them to be able to know that indeed, whatever you're doing, they are ensuring that they continue to stay compliant to all the rules and regulations and avoid unnecessary regulatory sanctions. Okay, and oftentimes they also believe that compliance does not understand the business. For every time you try to say, this is what the regulator is saying, this is how we should do it, they'll be like, no, you don't understand this. That's why you are all siding with the regulator as to what needs to be done. But again, like I said, for you to be a good compliance officer, you must be knowledgeable. It means that you must not have that pride to say that you know it all. For every time there's a new product, you must also attend the training, get a good understanding of the products and services, what it offers, and the promises that we're making as an organization to the customers. Okay. The routine roles and responsibilities that majority of the business is aware of is that, look, the compliance officer implements policies and procedures. They train employee largely on AML, CFT. They conduct due diligence when we want to open accounts or we want to engage a customer. They help us to do due diligence to ensure that these people are good people. They conduct transaction monitoring, and of course, they report to the board and management and the regulators as the case may be. And every time there's a corrective action to be implemented that impacts on the regulation or regulatory expectation, compliance is able to oversee that process with the business. And of course, interpreting regulations and regulatory expectations to the business, how it is believed that the regulators want things to be done. These are the basic routine rules that people understand, the business understand that compliance does. However, what compliance does is far above all of this. Now, I call this initial slide, I will call these two slides is like a strategy called the balcony and the dance strategy. For me, this is the dance strategy, which is really operational. The balcony and the dance strategy is speaking to a scenario of you being in a stadium watching a football game, right? You are sitting in the spectator, you are on the balcony. You can almost tell who needs to get the ball, who needs to pass the ball to who that is free to ensure that a goal is scored. But the people in the dance, the people doing the operations, there's only so much that they can see, right? They look at the SOP and they continue to work in line with the standard operating procedure and they go along. However, if you are in the balcony where you are able to see the bird's eye view, looking at the business, okay? And this is how compliance really partners with the business. To start from goal setting, from the vision, who do we want to be as an organization, okay? So what is our vision, what is our mission, and what are our goals? And compliance begin to partner with the business from the get-go, from as little as hiring employees. So when employees come into the system, apart from the fact that a compliance officer will want to be sure that these are not employees that has been blacklisted anywhere around the world, they also want to make sure that, look, on an ongoing basis, the employee that you are employing are actually in line with the strategy that you said you want to adopt, okay? Otherwise, you will find out that things are not the way you expect them to be at the end of the day. A key compliance activity, right, is risk assessment, right? And this is to help the business to say that, look, you're going to be selling products or services. We need to review these products and services from a compliance, risk management, and AML CFT perspective. If I have a product, let's risk rank them, either high, medium, or low. Now, the risk rating that we have given to this product will determine how we sell these products and to whom that we sell these products, in keeping in line with our vision and our mission of who we want to be as an entity. We also want to look at our customers. If the business says that, look, I want to run a business that deals with only high net worth individuals, okay? The compliance officer is expected to do a risk assessment to say that, okay, these high net worth individuals, these are the potential risk that comes with them. However, the risk is not all bad. We can have mitigants that will help us to ensure that you stay within the business sector that you say you want to operate and ensure that you don't go out of it. We also want to look at channels and geography. There are some channels that the business wants to implement that may be high risk in nature, where compliance will say that, look, if you're looking to make $1 billion, for example, in a year, and you're selling to the most risky customer segment, where the risk is that there's a risk of fraud, there's risk of money laundering. At the end of the day, you might make the money, but you will lose them in regulatory sanctions if you don't lose them to fraud, amongst other things. And the same thing goes for geographies as well. Compliance helps to look at vendor management. One key area with vendor management is that one of the revenue leakages within an organization is through vendor management. How are you onboarding your vendors, okay? Who are the approval authorities that looks at these vendors that you are onboarding? To the extent that we know that fraud is being committed where unapproved vendors are brought on board, or that vendors that are known to be associated with all sorts of money laundering, terrorist financing are onboarded, you want to ensure that you have a good governance process around the vendor management, the negotiation process, amongst other things. And of course, you want to also implement whistleblowing, that despite all of our best efforts as a business, we have a very fantastic vision, we have a fantastic mission, and we have goals. There will be individuals within our organization or our partners who will not act in line with what we have said we will need to do, right? You need to have a very discreet channel where we can get reports of these individuals or organizations so that we can implement corrective action to ensure that we keep in line with our business objectives. And of course, we also have due diligence reviews. There are instances where you want to engage with a business or an individual or an entity that you are not too sure of, right? And you are not able to conduct due diligence to know to what extent you are comfortable with this individual or businesses. You speak to your compliance officer and they will give you guidance as to what needs to be checked, not only from AML CFT, from compliance and other areas, where they can guide the business to ensure that the people that you are bringing on board in terms of business partners are also very good people. And of course, very key, regulatory engagement and advocacy. There are two aspects to this. The regulatory engagement is speaking to the routine engagement that you have with your regulators to say that, look, as a business, this is what we have done, this is why we have done what we have done. We have either complied or not complied. In areas where we have not complied, okay, compliance also assists the business to work with the regulators to minimize the impact of issues that has happened in the business. The advocacy part of this is to say that, look, I am a bank, right? And my license says that I can do 1 billion in transaction in a year. However, my strategy is saying that I want to be able to do 5 billion, right? Because there's already a regulatory cap. Compliance will begin to do some sort of advocacy for you to be able to engage with regulators and see reasons why they need to move that sector from a 1 billion sector to a 5 billion sector. It means that you need to organize trainings for them to understand. Maybe they don't have a deeper knowledge of that industry, and then you guys can share information to the extent that it will then end in a place where they are able to probably increase that level for your business to be able to do significant activities. So these are a few areas where I believe that compliance can really assist the business. And of course, there are benefits that comes from that, one of which is that where compliance is able to work harmoniously with the business, it comes up with customer confidence because a lot of the standard operating procedures that you have in place will be seen to be working towards ensuring that the customer is satisfied, okay? You will have fewer legal and regulatory issues. There are instances where you can avoid legal issues, but at least you will have fewer issues from regulators and from the court. Employee confidence. There's a confidence that comes with knowing that you are working with a compliant organization, such that if there's negative news in the media that says that these type of organizations are involved in some type of breaches, because you know you have very good compliance team, you are somewhat confident that it cannot be us, you know, and then it gives you the confidence enough to be able to do your job without any fear or favor, knowing that you have some group of people that will all ensure that you are properly trained and there are guidance and explanations to the regulatory things that you need to know. And of course, regulators like compliance businesses. It means that if they know you to be a compliant business, they will come to you less because your risk rating with the regulator will be low. As opposed to not having good compliance practices, your risk rating will be high. In some instances, they would have an office within your office because they have rated you high risk and they need to constantly review you more. When you have a good compliance, it's a good competitive tool. Everybody wants to be associated with somebody that they know to be compliant and not have legal or regulatory issues. And of course, you'll be a role model. When you are known to be a compliant organization, other organizations, and in some cases, your competitors will come to you to say, how did you achieve this? How can you help us with this, amongst others? And then you find out that the business will benefit at the end of the day from the engagement and from having a good compliance team. I hope that with these few words of mine, I've been able to share some of the little things that I know with how compliance can benefit business. I thank you for listening, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bello. We now follow up with Mr. Goland. Mr. Goland is a graduate of Universidad Católica Argentina Law School. He has a wide experience in economic financial management with government stewardship and public works. He was Deputy Director General of the Public Prosecutor's Office of Buenos Aires. He oversaw controls and gave legal advice concerning contracts and property affairs. He was appointed as Director of Subterráneos de Buenos Aires and then Vice Chairman of the board. In 2016, he was appointed as Deputy Secretary General of the Resources Administration and Economic Financial Management of the Ministry of Education of the Government of the City of Buenos Aires, as the ultimate authority of the Physical Resource Administration in the public education establishments of the city. He was in charge of recruitment, accurate budget, monitoring and certification of contracts in progress. In 2017, he took over the General Accounting Office. He was responsible for the internal control body of the state. He led internal audit guidelines, led internal audit unions within jurisdictions, entities, and companies. Currently, he serves as second vice chairman at Autopistas Urbanas, AUSA, being chairman of the Compliance and Ethics Committee. Mr. Goland, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Maria, and thank you for the Federation and all the audience. I have to share. Okay. Well, Um, dispensation. Here we are. Okay, the business component and how compliance contribute to our organization's objectives. Through my exposition, I'm going to describe how we are implementing in AUSA, a state-owned company of the City of Buenos Aires, a policy of gradual improvement of good corporate governance standards. My experience of integrated compliance in AUSA allows me to state that is a strategic tool for development of company's business. How does contribute to an organization without being an obstacle? Very simple. You have to integrating the compliance function into the company structure and also in senior management. AUSA, as I said, is a state-owned company that belongs to the City of Buenos Aires and have two main goals. First one is to manage the manage the maintenance of all the highways in the city and collect their tolls. And the second goal is to use that the 55% of the budget to do infrastructure works. In 2018, AUSA began to implement a policy of gradual improvement of good corporate governance standards coordinated with the city government, who promoted a program to improve the institutional quality of state companies, aiming to improve management and efficiency. That program was called Bringing Companies in the City of Buenos Aires Closer to OECD Corporate Governance Standards. And the objective of this program was to guide companies in their policy setting processes to promoting international corporate governance standards. This is a state-owned companies, and the state-owned companies play a key role in the growth of cities through expanding the public services and participating in infrastructure works. Such companies are essential to put into practice the development policy of the city governments. For that, we decided to implement OECD guidelines for good corporate governance, and the process of continuous and sustained improvement has the support and leadership of the board of directors. AUSA registers a considerable leap in the quality and scale of its good corporate governance policy. About 2020, a new stage in the process of building the integrated governance system in the company began. This was reflected in the creation of the bodies responsible for managing the ethics and compliance agendas and development and approval of standards and codes that are part of an integrated program that follows the guidelines of the law 27401 on criminal liability of legal persons. In that year also was created the Auditor Commission and Behavior and Risk Management approach, and we also have emphasis on promoting a culture of integrity throughout all the society. AUSA Integrated Program is composed of a regulatory body made up of a code of ethics and conduct, gift policy, conflicts of interest policy, and incompatibility policy. We have also a training program. We have made more than 15 programs the last year, and an institutional integrity governance scheme led by the Ethics and Compliance Committee, which includes the Conduct Commission and the recipient figure of the Compliance Officer. The Conduct Commission has a key role in the procedures of the complaints and the regulatories or violations of the codes of ethics and conduct. And well, We have a lot of complaints in the line of the whistleblower. And the Ethic and Compliance Committee is made up of 5 directors who are members of the board of directors towards to achieve a cultural change. Highlights of these cultural changes. First of all, it's very important the support given by the shareholders, that in this case is the head of government. And in this type of company, it's very important to make progress step by step, making it clear that compliance does not exclude good administration, efficient and agile management, but rather complements it. And that compliance could even strengthen such management by raising standards such as integrity, transparency, and good governance practices. For that reason, the first decision of having a compliance committee and not a compliance officer was very important, because as I said, this committee have 5 members of the board of directors, and all the plan actions to be taken towards to achieve a cultural change could be taken and then sought the approval of the board of directors. Now, we think we are ready to make the next step, is to appoint an compliance officer. The mission will be to lead the integrity program in the terms of the Articles 22 and 23 of the law 27401. And knowing the complexity of being a company with public shareholders, we have to put a very special focus in the professional profile. And we think it has to have a business vision and interdisciplinary approach that allows him to provide a broad view, ability to build trust and legitimacy, and the capacity to develop good bonds and empathy. We know that all the companies have the difficulties, but here in the state-owned company, we have greater difficulties such as bureaucracy, pressure to achieve political goals, and inherent corruption. We will appoint a compliance officer that integrates into the organizational structure, who will act as a second line of defense of internal control. We have prioritized the role of the compliance officer to ensure the effectiveness of the work and to guarantee due control over the implementation of the program, reporting directly to the board and being supported by the compliance committee. Well, in this short time, note about that we started in 2020. In 2018, we have the code of conduct, we have a committee of ethics, but the real change began in 2020. So in this short time, we have these achievements: effective implementation of the codes of conduct, anonymous complaints line, and the compliance committee. Within it functions the conduct commissions. As I said, after we receive several complaints and have 3 important complaints that finishes with the dismissal of 3 employees. One of them was for robbery and 2 of them for gender issues, sexual abuse and harassment. And I mentioned this because one of the important conditions of a good whistleblower line is the confidence, and we can say that this whistle line have the confidence of all the company. Also, good results that have begun to be seen in terms of efficiency in the purchase and contracting sector. We have now publishes all its purchase. Also have the purchases publishes in his website, and within have the private tender, the public tender, you have access for registration for be a new supplier, and also access for information corresponding to 128 public tenders between the last 10 years. This gives us satisfactory transparency standards, and also suppliers meet new integrity requirements. We make them sign a document saying that they are aware of AUSA codes of ethics, and if they win or if they are advocates, they must sign an anti-corruption clause. And we also ask them if they have their own codes. The migration to this online eliminates obstacles that discourage suppliers. Now the process is, the new process is simpler, is clearer, and more transparent. Since 2020, we have like 200 new suppliers that has been added. And we also achieve savings between the 20 and 50%. This accumulation of practices has contributed to the efficient use of the company resources. We have in some projects like the repavement of the highway AU6, the application of these new processes has allowed saving about 90 millions of pesos, and in a contract that was finally closed to 266 million pesos. So it's about the 30% of the contract value. Well, and to finish, because we don't have much time, the conclusion is that in AUSA, the integration of compliance facility the achievement of our goals and contributes to improve our standard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alberto.
And Maria, to you and your team, thank you very much indeed for a topical and insightful conversation on day one of this IFCA International Compliance Congress.